"Beg me to invest in your little startup," my wife's father said, swirling his wine as if it carried the weight of kingdoms. He had always been like this, patronizing, arrogant, dangling his wealth like a leash he expected me to wear. The dining table gleamed with polished silverware, the kind of opulence he loved to remind me I didn't come from. My wife sat beside him, her expression unreadable, though her silence had begun to speak volumes these past months. I smiled, not because his words amused me, but because I had outgrown the sting of his condescension. My company was no longer a little startup. We had been growing in silence, investing wisely, building something solid while he assumed I was still groveling in dust. And then it happened. The door opened and my CFO walked in. Crisp suit, steady stride, and eyes that betrayed the satisfaction of someone bringing news too big to contain. He carried a tablet in his hand, glanced at me for permission, and then looked directly at my father-in-law. "Sir," he said with the formality of a courtroom, "your son-in-law's net worth just crossed $15 billion. The sound that followed was sharper than any applause. My wife's father's silver fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the porcelain plate. His eyes widened, his face drained of color, and for the first time since I had known him, he had nothing to say. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The truth had spoken louder than any defense I could ever have given. But then I turned to my wife, and what I saw in her eyes cut deeper than any insult her father had ever thrown my way. It wasn't pride. It wasn't joy. It was regret. Regret that twisted into guilt. Because I knew. I had known for weeks. The late nights, she claimed, were spent helping her father with family matters, the hushed phone calls, the sudden distance between us. It all made sense now. She hadn't been standing at my side. She had been leaning toward him, toward his world, toward the man he had always wanted her to marry before me. The affair wasn't with a stranger. It was with her father's protege, a senior partner at his real estate law firm, a man she had once dismissed as just a friend. Their meetings, their long dinners, the smirk she carried when she thought I wasn't looking. It had all been laid bare by a slip of her phone screen one night when she left it unlocked. I hadn't confronted her yet, not until I could decide whether revenge should be loud or silent. And in that dining room, as her father stared at me like a man realizing his empire had been dwarfed, my choice crystallized. Revenge wasn't about shouting. It wasn't about tearing everything down in front of them. It was about walking away with everything they thought I would never have: power, respect, wealth, and leaving them in the ruins of their own arrogance. After dinner, I rose calmly. "Thank you for the meal," I said. "But from here on, we won't need your table." Her father tried to speak, but the words died in his throat. My wife looked at me then, panic flickering behind her eyes, as if she had just realized the bridge she thought she could cross both ways had already burned. I didn't mention the text. I didn't mention the nights she didn't come home. I didn't mention the betrayal that had hollowed me out. Not there, not in front of them. That truth would come later. In papers she couldn't ignore. Divorce, papers delivered to her office. At the law firm where her lover worked. In the weeks that followed, I watched from a distance as their confidence unraveled. Her father, who once treated me like dirt under his shoes, now had to read about me on the covers of financial magazines. His firm, once untouchable, faced a series of lawsuits after one of my new ventures bought the debt behind several of his projects. Slowly, quietly, I tightened the noose, not out of cruelty, but out of justice. And my wife? She tried to return, tried to paint her affair as a mistake, a moment of weakness. But the truth was written in her hesitation, in the way she had chosen him when she thought I was nothing. Love doesn't abandon you when the world doubts you. Love stays. Hers had already left long before the silverware hit the floor. The night my CFO brought me the final report of my holdings, I looked out over the skyline, my skyline now, dotted with buildings I owned, businesses I controlled, futures I held in my hands. Revenge hadn't been planned. It had been earned, brick by brick, deal by deal, truth by truth. And the sweetest part wasn't the billions. It wasn't the power. It was the silence. The silence in which her father could no longer mock me. The silence in which my wife could no longer justify herself. The silence in which betrayal had been answered not with rage but with triumph. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's survival, it's success, it's walking away while the silverware clatters at their feet.